I want to tell you that we have such a great responsibility to the boys and girls around the world. And since right now they are at home with you and you have direct authority, no representative body from the DC public school systems or anywhere else, you can go directly to them in the teaching and the guidance of not only their academics, but also their morality. I want you to remember two things to do with your children every single day. When you wake up in the morning, make sure that you pray with them. And number two, pledge with them. Pray and pledge with them every single day. Not only will it turn your world around, but when they go into the world, they will turn it around as well. I want you to understand some things, and we are in a recorded session at this point that I'm going to put out on YouTube, because a lot of people say, well, I don't watch your show, Ken. I can't always get to your show. Well, you're going to get to this right here. Mary Brockman, my bouncer in chief, will tell you that from the very beginning, I have been opposed to what we've been doing. And part of being opposed to what we were doing as a nation is that we acted in fear rather than in love, a sound mind, and with power. We acted in fear. And so we have gotten the news today that autopsies on certain patients have been done, and they had coronavirus as early here as the middle or the beginning of February, which makes Donald Trump's decision to shut down our borders to China just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He was ahead of the curve. And so autopsies are showing that we had coronavirus here. And one of the things I wanted to, because I know what's going to happen when I put this out on Facebook. We're gonna get you, Ken. Yeah, you're gonna get me, because I said then that we should have shut down the borders as well to Europe. We shut them down. Shut them down. Because wherever the Belt Road Initiative was for the Chinese, you found the extension of Wuhan virus. And it was a devastating virus put out upon the people of the world. And more people are finding that this was the intent of China. There are some professors that go back and say as far back as October, they knew that this was afoot. And quite frankly, they were intending to devastate the world, that they might become the ultimate political, economic, and global power in the universe. With that said, we were told that by artificial means, ladies and gentlemen, we would be able to flatten the curve or crush the coronavirus or whatever the violent intention of the left was to that poor virus. And somehow we were under the guise, the estimate, and let me just show you. I'm not making this stuff up. We were under the guise and the estimate that 1.5 million to 2.2 million Americans would die. Remember War Games, 1983, Matthew Broderick, and in the end, Joshua, the Whopper computer, stated, how about a nice game of chess? On the realization, ladies and gentlemen, that there was a nuclear ending that would have been a Holocaust if the game was continued to play. We were under the guise, ladies and gentlemen, that we would be wiped from the entire universe. And so Donald Trump does whatever he has to do to protect the American people. Donald Trump says, you know what? I'm going to give an executive order requesting the governors and the governors of the states, the mayor of the District of Columbia and other territories, we need to shut it down. We need to shut it down. Now, he has no authority to shut it down unless he calls for martial law. law. Now imagine if the President of the United States had called for martial law. Wait. You're saying, whoa, Ken, hold up. He was not induced to do that 1.2. Those were, really? He wasn't induced?
Dr. Fauci, should Americans be prepared for the likelihood that there will be 100,000 Americans who die from this virus?
The answer is yes. We need, as sobering a number as that is, we should be prepared for it. Is it going to be that much? I hope not. And I think the more we push on the mitigation, the less likelihood it would be that number. But as being realistic, we need to prepare ourselves that that is a possibility, that that's what we will see.
A very short period of time for that to happen.
Right.
Can the country handle that in such a short period of time, within a couple of months?
You know,
50,000 a month.
You know, it will be difficult. I mean, no one is denying the fact that we are going through a very, very difficult time right now. I mean, we're seeing what's happening in New York. That is really, really tough. And if you extrapolate that to the nation, that will be really tough. But that's what it is, Jim, and we're going to have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, I think because the model that was from IHME, that's based and heavily laden by the data that has come in from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut.
Ladies and gentlemen, we decided that we were going to base our draconian treatment of Americans. And this is my point of view to all of us as Americans, citizens of the United States of America. We chose fear over love, power, and a sound mind. And you sit back and say, well, we saved lives. Really? When you isolated people in nursing homes, you saved lives? No, the numbers show opposite that. When you isolate people in an atmosphere where a virus can be transmitted very easily, no, you didn't save lives. What you've done is that you created a reckless atmosphere by which more lives would have been lost. Yes, I'm saying that to you, Americans, because out of fear, you gave up Christianity, but you didn't give up the grocery stores. Out of fear, you gave up capitalism, just as long as you get your stimulus check. Out of fear, you gave up conservatism, because, you know, it just makes sense, ladies and gentlemen, just makes sense for us to go along to get along. You gave up, out of fear, the U.S. Constitution. Well, Ken, that's because we put a lot of confidence in our political leaders that they would lead us during this time period and would not violate the Constitution. And out of fear, my fellow American citizens, you gave up individual sovereignty. You turned that over to the state. And now the state does stuff like this.
Numerous times. This is it. Exit the playground area now. And don't, I really am trying to be nice to evidence.
Doesn't sound like a nice guy.
Because you guys aren't listening. I just told you, exit the playground area. It's
But
easy.
we're not trespassing. Are you going to now
Ma'am.
incite everyone for not social distancing over here?
Ma'am.
Are you going to arrest people
Ma'am.
for not social
You
distancing?
have 5 seconds. 3.
Arrest me for being a retard. Do it. Report it.
Okay, this is not... Officer, you don't want to do that. Officer, you don't...
You're being detained right now.
Am I being arrested or detained? Am I arrested or detained? Someone call Idaho Freedom Foundation right now and get them on the phone.
Call now. I'm recording. Someone else call. Okay, can you call? Her kids are here. Her kids are here. What is going to happen? Who's got her kids?
This makes no sense.
He is arresting her for being on a public playground. He is arresting her right now. Officer Fiscus.
As a person, does this make sense to you?
Officer, what is your name and badge number?
Man, you're going to step away from me.
What is your name and badge number? He does not want to give his name or badge number. I asked him 3 times.
Our children playing at the playground. Can we please
You cannot arrest her.
anyone in Meridian, any of our centers available?
Sergeant Fiscus just arrested her. She was standing. Arrested her.
Governor told us
Sarah
last
is
night the
being
lockdown was
arrested.
over.
Who told you that?
Because
I haven't heard that. He's like, oh, it's over, bro. Look at everybody have the park has some fun.
That's statewide. This is a city thing.
you're gonna be.
Oh, man, who am I gonna talk to?
talk about that?
We were told 2.5 million Americans would die. 2.5 million Americans would die. We were extrapolating the numbers from New York and New Jersey against all of America. And what did the tyrannists, especially Democrat governors and Democrat mayors, and I don't want to leave it just at that, because we always talk about Governor Whitmer, but Governor Hogan in Maryland is no different. And I'm quite certain because he's come through a bout with cancer, he understands underlying circumstances and medical conditions, which would make it very easy to acquire the virus and also die from the virus. But what they asked Americans to do was not only scientifically reckless, but medically dishonest. To isolate Americans, to isolate healthy Americans in homes, taking away not only their livelihood, but their basic liberties and freedoms. A Meridian, Idaho woman is arrested because she wanted to take her kids on a public playground. You have gotten Americans so frightened, so absolutely frightened at this point, that many are afraid to go outside. And what have we taken on in the exchange here of the guarantees of government protection for our rights, our liberties, our freedoms? What did we get in exchange for that? Sitting on a couch 24 hours out of a day because now I'm unemployed. In fact, the expectation is that another 6 million Americans will be unemployed officially by Friday, taking the total somewhere between 21 and 28 million Americans unemployed right now. Knowing that the Federal Reserve of St. Louis estimated that we would have, at the end of this crisis, 40 million Americans. So we have lost more jobs than was expected to be a loss of Americans through the Wuhan virus. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, by that first wave that was supposed to come and literally create a death knell for America, it would have been the end of the Trump presidency right then and there. If he had watched over 2.5 million Americans die, but wait a minute. They got these numbers from IMH out of the UK and from Johns Hopkins, which were contracted with what organization? The World Health Organization. The same organization that told us that you could not transmit person to person the Wuhan virus. And their number said 2.5 million. And yet the left wants you to focus on what Donald Trump knew and when he knew it. When it is leaps and bounds proven that he was so much further ahead than most of the most reasonable leaders of the world. at least in the establishment opinion. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you have listened to the leftists, to the progressive, to the anti-Trumpers who are political leaders. And the question is becoming more and more obvious. Now that we know, based on Stanford University studies and NIH studies, that there could possibly be many, many millions more people who have been infected by this virus, but got up and walked on. Ain't nothing but a thing. You know what I'm saying? I got the virus and I'm gone. Living the life. Wait a minute. We were told that artificially, by isolating and wearing a doggone mask, that I prevented people from getting it. Wait a minute. We weren't told that it was an airborne virus until NIH agreed with what I said in February and late March, that this was an airborne virus, and it didn't matter whether you traveled, whether you sat next to each other at the bar. It didn't matter at all. It's in the air. Just like what? The flu. And yet it appears that more people would have died of the flu in the past year than the Wuhan virus. But Ken, you don't know, the effects were so great. No, the effects are showing that if we had just listened to the medical science that have been completely built on the framework of what a pandemic was, since you're all talking about the 1913 Spanish flu or the 1918 Spanish, whichever year it was, you're all talking about that. What they designed from that is the understanding that you keep people out in the sun, you keep them in the fresh air, and you keep them clean. Whoa, wait a minute. Heat will defeat a virus? Yes. Deodorants will defeat a virus? Yes. Detergents will defeat a... Yes. You mean if I just did those things, even without a mask, I would be like you, Ken? More than likely, yes. And more than likely, the 30 to 50 other million Americans that got it and got up and walked on. Science, and true medicine is rearing its beautiful face to the American sunrise. While Americans succumbed to hockey stick science and socialist idealisms to answer this great panic. But who wants to have blood on their hands? No one wants to have blood on their hands. But let me ask you something. What are you more likely to die from right now? Wuhan or being unemployed?
There are literally hundreds of these places all over New York now. It's grab-and-go food, 3 meals a day, for anyone who needs it.
Since we're in an emergency situation, we have a very big keeping track of who comes, which has been given. Yeah, actually. And when they know that we're open, they'll come in waves.
The unemployment figures are something else. The US economy is reeling. More than 16 million people are now out of work in the space of a few short weeks. 10% of the workforce, the equivalent of a small country. It's taking Americans back to a place they never wanted to revisit, the bad old days of the Great Depression.
I lost my job that I was with for 12 years, so that has impacted me. And I don't know about how I'm going to get medical. That concerns me because I need medical for my health condition, so that also has impacted me. And then how am I going to buy food?
I don't know what else to do. I'm just really hungry. I just found out this morning I lost one of my friends for the COVID. He died on Thursday. I didn't know that now until today. So I just been very sad.
President Trump has repeatedly predicted the economy will skyrocket once this is all over. Economists don't agree with him.
New York now might, just might, be at the tip of this crisis. The governor has said that the curve appears to be flattening. But what is for sure is that even once the virus has gone completely, the socio-economic consequences of it the unemployed, the closed businesses, well, they could take months, if not years, to correct themselves.
This is America's other crisis, another side effect of a virus that now has the world's richest nation begging. Alistair Punkle, Sky News, the Bronx, New York.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. The greatest nation on the face of the earth. We faced down Ebola, we faced down HIV, we faced down SARS, H1N1. What virus did we not face down without closing our economy? Without closing our economy. What comes when there's no money? Hunger. Potential riots. Individuals who are starving for something to do. Crime. Oh, but Ken, Mayor Bowser said crime is down 3%. Really? When half your police force is unable to report crimes, wouldn't that affect that number? Think it through, people. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are told this.
The director of the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention has warned that a second wave of coronavirus could be even worse than the first, especially if it is during the flu season this coming winter. The US medical expert Robert Redfield told the Wall Street Journal, "There's a possibility that the assault of the virus on our nation next winter will actually be even more difficult than the first one we just went through." Redfield went on to warn that if the COVID-19 peak had hit during the influenza season, it would have been very difficult for the US healthcare system to cope. His warnings come as several US states start to ease their lockdown measures. Protests have been sparked in several states, such as Michigan, where people feel the economic impact on them and their families from a coronavirus lockdown is too much to bear. Governors in Tennessee and Georgia have announced plans to start to reopen their states, starting with the reopening of some small businesses.
We will allow gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, body art studios, barbers, cosmetologists, hair designers, nail care artists, estheticians, their respective schools, and massage therapists to reopen their doors this Friday, April the 24th.
Unemployment in the US has reached 22 million, wiping out 10 years' worth of surging jobs. Meanwhile, the country has seen over 800,000 cases of COVID-19 and more than 45,000 deaths, the most in the world. President Donald Trump yesterday announced his controversial plan to shut down immigration into the United States in order to protect people's jobs and welfare.
As we all know, millions of Americans sacrificed their jobs in order to battle the virus and save the lives of our fellow citizens. We have a solemn duty to ensure these unemployed Americans regain their jobs and their livelihoods. Therefore, in order to protect American workers, I will be issuing a temporary suspension of immigration into the United States.
The continued debate between protecting the economy and battling the coronavirus will be one that defines 2020.
So I got to ask you this, ladies and gentlemen. I got to ask you this because I got to go. And we'll be back after the commercials. But in all sincerity here, there is really no choice in the matter. You see, the left wants you to believe that we would surely die. But Ken, it can't be as simple as fresh air, heat, the sun. It can't be that simple. The hockey stick scientists and the partisan medicinal officers say that if we just create a vaccine, which literally is going to take about 15 months from now. Well, if you create that vaccine, and then if you test everybody every single day, 330 million Americans are to be tested every single day in order to determine if they are well. And by the way, did you know that according to the CDC, if someone takes your temperature, that's considered a medical examination? Now, you want Barney at the HR to do your medical examinations by testing your temperature and then sending you home? If your temperature, do you really want those without medical experience on your HR department to go around? How should they be dressed? Should your HR department be dressed in gloves and a mask, a hazmat outfit on, going around testing people's temperature throughout the course of the day? Is this the America you want? Well, your privacy and your health records does not exist, because once HR knows, Shaquita's going to know because they were watching you, and then somebody's going to get. You already have stigmas going on with individuals regarding COVID-19. Oh, you don't have a stigma? How's this, for instance? Ken McClenton walks into a food store. He's not wearing a mask. He's not wearing gloves. He's not trembling. He's not taking the antibacterial. And I don't know where you get the idea that you can use the antibacterial to kill the virus. It doesn't work that way. But apparently, if you scrub down the entire basket and then you move it through the store, that will keep you from getting an airborne viral infection, respiratory. But Ken McClenton walks in, and what is automatically understood about Ken McClenton? He does not care. He doesn't appreciate life. He's trying to give someone an illness. He needs to be separated, isolated, scorned. And that's why Facebook sends a warning to Ken McClenton before he goes on the air tonight and say, don't say any of this stuff. Stick to the narrative. Come to the coast. We'll have a good time. Yeah, the Nagatomi building has fallen. It's called the American economy. What took 10 years to build, do you expect it's going to come back in 3 months? No, it's not. We have oil prices that have gone to negative levels. You have oil tankers that are at sea can't come into dock because they can't unload the oil. You have Linda and Agnes sitting at home right now, homeschooling their kids, wondering, is the pizza store going to open again, or the pizza restaurant going to open again so I can get a job in my rural community? You see, this is bigger than New York and New Jersey. But unfortunately, because all of the media is in New York and New Jersey, that's the only thing that you hear. Death, destruction. And criticisms on governors that open up their beaches like Jacksonville. I want you to understand something. Death is not an acceptable thing for any of us. But it is a thing that we must accept in life. Pandemics are not acceptable things to us, but it is something that we must accept in life. But you cannot imprison 330 million Americans, take away their livelihood, and then expect there to be no hurt, no harm, no danger. You have already insinuated the belief that government can secure. Government cannot secure you. They can't. They can't protect you. But what we have learned that government can do with tyrants like Governor Northam, Mayor Bowser, Governor Hogan, what we have learned is that some people, despite common sense, despite true medical science, some people are willing to do whatever is necessary for you to suffer, for you to be hurt. because the real problem to those individuals is really not the virus. The real problem is their ego. You see, you went to the beach. Did you not know that I'm a great leader who's brought an airplane of laboratory tests from South Korea here? By the way, my wife is Korean. Don't you know how great I am by making certain that 72,000 people must file for unemployment in District of Columbia? Revving up an economy like ours is going to be difficult. This was not done, ladies and gentlemen, for public safety, for your health and well-being. If it were, then Mayor Bowser could have opened up Providence Hospital and separated it out as an infectious disease hospital and asked the U.S. Army to come in and retrofit that facility and prepare it to treat patients, because hospitalization here is not necessarily required, hasn't hit the limits. You have white tents in hospital areas that are not being used for testing. People are not lining up. Here's the dirty little secret of all of this. And I just want to say this to you on the air as I'm recording it, because they're not going to say it to you in public, and they will chastise me and criticize me for telling you this. But I want to make this abundantly clear for your understandings. From 1967 to present, the District of Columbia has been ruled by the Democrat Marxists. The district has had 7 consecutive black mayors over a span of 53 years. The city's black population rose from 28% in 1940 to 50% in 2010. The district's gross state product in 2018, second quarter, was $141 billion. The district government budget in fiscal year 2020 included a $15.5 billion overall spending plan. Race, power, and influence considered, the left have never solved the poverty problem. The poverty problem is composed of health, wealth, and general well-being. How do we know this? The leading wards of coronavirus deaths in D.C. are found east of the river, Ward 7 and 8. Not only have they not solved the poverty problem, but have opened the door for the poor to get poor. The east of the river employment numbers have been smashed, as those with the lowest skills live east of the river and will have the most difficult time returning to the labor force because of workforce barriers. Ken, what are workforce barriers? Getting the work on time, getting the skills necessary to actually move up, being paid sizable sums of money without the skill sets necessary to meet the need, being trained in areas that are of no use. What areas are of no use right now? Hospitality and travel. After the Wuhan virus outbreak, what industries will least be able to employ low-skilled laborers in D.C.? Travel and hospitality. Do you really think Americans want to travel to Washington, D.C., when you have a mayor that says that they are expecting in the middle of June an uptick in Wuhan virus? Do you really think that one through? When the science, the true science, says that where there is heat, there's a low level of virus. You have a mayor, a politician, who's saying the exact opposite. Tourism is Washington's second largest industry. The first is government. They always get paid. Approximately 18.9 million visitors contribute an estimated $4.8 billion to the local economy, or more. As of 2012, forgive me, it's probably 3 times more than that now. So if it is $12 billion, which is virtually $1 billion a month, and we've been closed in the District of Columbia for 4 months, that's $4 billion of revenue that's not there. That's tax dollars that cannot be appreciated from that $4 billion. And then with a mayor who is asking people to wear a mask in order to go into a grocery store where they have to stand in line for 2 to 3 hours just to be the top 10 to get in. Who's really being crushed by all this? Is it the government worker? No. They're getting paid. How about the poor? How about wards 7 and 8, where there is very few, or forgive me, where there are very few grocery stores, and poor people suffer most in terms of the foods that they need? I want to tell you one other thing. I want to thank Dr. Hotze for giving me this big box of vitamins. So I'm using those particular vitamins on a daily basis now. Why am I excited about that? Because being healthy is probably one of the best ways to defeat the Wuhan virus. Why is it that the left is not focusing on, firstly, the number of people that have recovered, which is in the District of Columbia, I think about 5 times more than people who have actually died? And then, why are they not telling you that you need vitamins like vitamin D and zinc to stay healthy and strong, to stay vibrant? Why isn't anyone focused on grocery stores staying open and the food products that are there being used? And by the way, ditzy broadcaster from Channel 4, Miss Millennial, please do not tell people to wash their fruits and vegetables with soap and water. First and foremost, that's silly because people are going to get sick from the soaping agents on it. But number 2, you're not helping anybody. Keep your medical science, your hockey stick medical science, to yourself. In closing, before you criticize, you must critically think this through. After all these years of absolute Democrat Marxist control and great access to power, affluence, and influence, why is the black race suffering in Chocolate City? It ain't racial. Trust me on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. Yes, we are a republic, not a democracy. You are listening to and watching the best in urban conservative news and talk, TECN TV, TheExceptionalConservativeShow.com. Before I go, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you, get ready. Your tax bill is coming.